It's live. Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to the Growth and Infrastructure and Waste Committee, the first one for this year on the 10th of February 2022. I'll start off with Counsellor Attendance, and if I go around the room, everyone is here apart from Councillor Madsen. He has let us know he's running a little bit late. He's downstairs. Thank you very much. So we'll move now on to the Acknowledgement of Country, and I'll hand over to Councillor Kunzelman.
We recognise that there are traditional custodians of this land on which we meet today to make important decisions. The spirit of those traditional custodians is with us today as we try to make the best decisions on the use of that land and the resources. We pay respect to those traditional custodians, acknowledging past and present leaders and the encouragement of new leaders as they emerge.
Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. I now call for any declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. There being none, we'll move on to the next item, which is business outstanding, and there is none. So we go to item 1, which is the confirmation of minutes. So I'll move that the confirmation of minutes to the GIW meeting of the 1st of December. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Milligan. Any discussion, corrections, amendments? No, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And it's unanimous for everyone in the room. Thank you. And carried. We move on to item 2, which is a report on expanding the Ipswich bus network. Does anyone have any questions for the relevant council officer on this? No? May I call the relevant council officer to the lectern, please?
James MacArthur, Transport Planner.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this report. I just want to know what triggered the report. I understand it's part of the IGO strategy.
It is. I guess the trigger of the report was, so we meet up with TransLink on a quarterly basis and we discuss all things public transport related. What triggered this report is years of frustrations with seeing bus services get funded and implemented. So we've never taken that step to look back in the past and to see how the network has evolved over the years. So this was the first time that we've completed that exercise, and it actually showed a few things which were concerning to us and concerning for the city. So that was I guess the reason for doing the report. There was no action specifically to do this report within IGO or IGO PTAPE, which is our Public Transport Advocacy and Action Plan, but there are nexuses within all those plans. So,
thank you very much. And you've had some discussions with the State Department, and how have those discussions gone?
So we generally agree at an officer level as to what needs to be done, services that are required now, and they're in agreement too. It's just once it gets to that funding stage, so recommendations from TransLink go to a service delivery board, and projects get up, or well, the decision gets made at that process. Historically, projects seem to get up if they have a political backing, or if there is already committed funding to that project. For example, in Ripley Valley, we have the 531 service, and there's a 5-year funding plan for the staged implementation of that. So, yeah. If there's no political, I guess, backing towards a project, or if the other thing that's considered is infrastructure projects. So if there's a key infrastructure project that has been delivered, for example, the Gold Coast Light Rail, they might look to invest in supporting services to those infrastructure projects as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr MacArthur. Any other questions? I think Councillor Ireland, you got your hands up?
Thank you. You said that Ripley Valley has a 5-year plan. So does that mean as each school comes online, that 531 will be a school pickup, do all the schools in the area and back to the shopping centre?
I think the school services are separate to the urban service. So the 531 is the urban bus service. School bus services are separate to the urban bus service.
So
They might run in proximity to the schools, depending on the alignment and where these schools are planned. I'm sure with the expansion of the Ripley Valley services, they'll consider where the school locations are so that students can use those services in the future.
So the complaints that we've had is that the school bus was picking up the high school students that couldn't go to the Ripley Valley Secondary College. There's no pickup, there's no places along Ripley Road coming into town, designated bus stops for the pickup, so the children are standing on the side of the road. So can we just inquire about that one?
Yeah, happy to have a chat
you.
to TransLink about that. That's fine.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr MacArthur? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There are 4 recommendations in the report, and I move all 4. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fechner. I'll open up for any discussion.
Yeah, I just want to speak in support of these recommendations and commend the council officers for the advocacy that they've achieved behind the scenes to date, albeit futile at times. I think that this is a signal to us that we need to stand up and start advocating for better outcomes when it comes to accessibility to public transport across the LGA. And this paints a really clear picture of the state of affairs that currently exists in the LGA, and it's quite sad. As recently as Saturday, when Councillor Doyle and myself were at our community catch-ups at Redbank Plaza, there were individuals there complaining that they're unable to access a bus service, so they're having to lean on, family members because they can't afford the taxi or the Uber ride just to get to the shops. And it was a real inconvenience. This one particular woman has lived with a disability for a really long time. So her story really touched us, and it was heartening to be able to tell her that this report was coming to council to say that we're aware of the issue and we're prepared to stand on this platform and advocate for those residents who need access desperately for public transport. And, it's a very honest report, and you can read between the lines in a few instances here, speaking directly to the state government's transport and mobility study, which is a $400,000 election commitment. That seems to me, that's welcome, but it seems that we might be kicking the can down a little bit too far into the future for us. So I guess this is an interim advocacy opportunity for us. And it shouldn't be a burden that we have to wear. I mean, the report speaks directly to the fact that TransLink want any options that we present to them to be cost neutral or funded by council. That's not our responsibility. And I think that we need to stand up and really message to the city what's going on here to help those without a voice. So I speak in favour of these recommendations and commend council officers once again for this really awesome report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fechner. Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, reiterate Councillor Fechner's comments. And when we think about the residents that do live with a disability, part of them being able to be independent is usually a big dependence or reliance on public transport. So it's critical that we advocate for those in our community that are really looking for this. I just, comment on also the reference in C to rationalise the existing bus services. Everyone, I guess, is a witness to those empty buses that are, travelling around the suburbs, and that's where I guess we can identify some efficiencies and redirect resources. So it's important that somebody's working on this all of the time.
Thank you. I guess for myself, I do note that this report is out of ordinary council meeting during an interim administration that came through in August 2019 for this to be looked at. So I think it's a been a lot of work, and I think there's no surprises in this report. We all know it, but it's great to have the evidence, so we'll be able to speak with our state colleagues. And I also acknowledge the state government's commitment for a $400,000 study, I think between 2002 and 2024, which I think would be fantastic. And I encourage the people of Ipswich, the last time there was a review was in 2013, and when I look at the notes on page 23, when that happened, only 12 people in Ipswich actually responded. So when the state government do come forth doing the review, I do encourage people to come forward and give their views and responses. It's going to be really important for our city that occurs as well. Are there any other comments, discussion? In that case, I put all 4 recommendations to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous and carried. The next item is the IGO annual report card. Would anyone like to ask the relevant council officer any questions? No? In that case, I will move that the report be received and the contents noted. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fechner. I'll open up for discussion. I guess my only discussion here is I note that the IGO is scheduled to commence its first major review in the next financial year, since it was, I think, created in 2016. So it's great to see that see that that's on the books and that will be happening. If there's no other comments, I'll put the matter to the vote to note this report. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. We move on to item 4, which is the proposed repairs to an unmaintained roads policy. And the recommendation is that the policy titled Repairs to Unmaintained Roads Policy, as outlined in Attachment 1, be adopted to enable a consistent approach to customer requests for maintenance on unmaintained roads. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officer on this matter? No? In that case, I'll move this recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kunzelman? Any discussion on this? Thank you. Councillor Ireland?
Thank you, Mayor. The previous report actually had a budget of $60,000. Now that's 4 years old when that came up, and there's been very little maintenance. I think that the budget needs to be increased to $100,000 because I didn't get the project up to maintain one unmade road every term. So I think that we need to put more money into the maintenance of unmade roads.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland.
Just a question,
Yes.
Councillor Ireland. When you say previous report, do you mean the previous policy that was rescinded?
2019.
Okay, the previous policy.
Yeah, the previous policy was repealed in September 19, I think.
Yes.
Yep. And obviously we're going through our budget discussions now, so I would expect that that money will be we'll have those discussions in our budget discussions to make sure that this policy is funded.
Well, I can't vote for $50,000. That's what I'm saying, because I don't think it's sufficient. And that's the recommendation back here, that they're saying that it's expected that an operational budget of $50,000 per annum would be sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it's not sufficient.
Right, okay. Thank you. I note that in the policy that there is no dollar amount in there, so I think it'll be a good one to raise in budget. Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Any other commentary? Yes, Councillor Kunzelman?
Thank you. We recognise that Council's got an emphasis here on safety and access for people, and we applaud that. I think that the amount is still to be debated, quite frankly. But the idea is very good that we could do, I'll say spontaneous for want of a better word, spontaneous repairs in terms of safety and access. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Councillor Madsen?
I'm very happy that the policy is finally coming forward today in regards to why I think it's important we have a policy for this. If you're driving along in rural areas and you go down an unmaintained road, you probably don't know that it's unmaintained. So for us to, and it's a prevailing position across the state, so it's not a negative thing on Ipswich City Council at all, but you've got people who have, you know, been doing it themselves. So how do you have any sort of reasonable road network when there's not a uniform standard. And I've seen some very different approaches people have taken out there when they've tried to make it a bit more trafficable. And so on that alone, just with modern GPSs, just sending people down these unmaintained roads as a shortcut, I think it's good that council's going to be a bit more proactive than what we have been the last few years.
I think this policy is a bit of a gap. In the Local Government Act, there's no stipulation on how local governments within Queensland maintain unmaintained roads, and there's no obligation on council to, people have moved onto properties with unmaintained roads, and therefore the properties did cost less and so on. So I think this is a way for us to, I think like Councillor Kunzman said and Councillor Island, is how do we manage that when it comes to safety, as well as spending rate pays money as well. There's no other comment. I put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Well, I think I've already called for the vote, Councillor Island, so I think you have to... Those in favour, it's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Move on to item 5, which is the Infrastructure Environment Department Capital Delivery Report, December 2021. May I ask for the relevant council officer to come to the lectern, please?
Morning, Graham Martin, Manager, Capital Delivery Branch.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you for this report. And again, I appreciate the pictures and then the report now being a bit more visual and giving more depth. It's been great to see that as well. I've seen it around. Noting the importance of our capital works projects in our
Yes.
of what council does. What are the areas that you're concerned about, and what are the areas that you're quite pleased with?
I guess I'll start with the areas that I'm quite pleased with. I think that the current capital program that we've got and the 3-year capital program that was published by this council has allowed us to forward plan a lot better than what we had previously. So the positive side of that is that in our design completions, we're now sitting at about 85% of our design completions at this stage of the year, which is a really good position to be in. Having the designs ready in advance means that we can keep progressing with our capital delivery. We can get out to procurement nice and early. We can keep forward notifications through the procurement panel about what jobs are coming up. So that's a real positive for us. It also means at this stage we're hoping to have that designs finished for this year in April, and we can then start kicking in late April, May and June to start our designs for the new financial year. So it's a really positive position to be in at the moment. Given it's the first year of that 3-year program, then to move that far ahead in 1 year, we're really pleased. A couple of areas that generally across the delivery, we're starting to slip a little bit behind the run rate that we'd predicted. However, there's probably 3 or 4 areas that account for pretty much all of that deficit. We've got one project in particular, Whitwood Road, which is discussed in there. Good to see now that the procurement and the activity is ready to commence in February. There was some significant illegal dumping in that site. It's taken a lot of work for the officers in the Environment Department to go back, do some investigations as to what was the quality or lack thereof of the illegal dumping, so that we can then go to the relevant landfill areas that are going to accept it, make sure we know what we're taking for two reasons. One, to make sure we know what we're going to be charged, but also to make sure we know what we're transporting out through the streets of Ipswich. So it was a pretty important piece of work. That's delayed the work, but it's now ready to go, and we're confident that it'll be finished by the end of June. If not June, it may be a little overflow into July, but that'll be a small carryover, fairly insignificant. We've got some delays through procurement, not our procurement, but the procurement of pipes generally across the industry. So the major project that was approved back in November for Redbank Plains Stage 3 was due to commence in February. the contractors advise that there's a 10-week delay in the concrete pipes delivery that they've ordered through Humes, who are pretty much the sole supplier in the area. So that's going to knock back our delivery schedule somewhat. But again, it's a timing issue, not a delivery issue per se. So a bit concerning there. Similarly with the major plant purchases are starting to drift back a little bit, but the procurement's been completed, the orders have been placed, and we're really at the mercy of global supply chains to deliver those on time, and we're seeing pretty much month-on-month promises being delayed again and again. So while it's a concern from a dollars KPI metric, it's not a concern from planning, delivery, and I think good work from the officers in the team. So most of them are under pretty good control. The other one that's a significant movement from the dollars KPI, there's significant work at Atlantic Drive Sports Field for about $1.6 million. By the time we finished the design and understood the scope of the works, we looked like we were going to be at some risk of interfering with the playing seasons. So through the sport and rec team and their consultation with the sporting groups, we've agreed to delay that by a full 12 months to make sure that we're ready to go in between their playing seasons. So again, from a dollar metric, it looks like we're down by 1.6, but from a proper planning and capital delivery, I'm very comfortable with where that's sitting.
Mr. McMahon, direct, I'm just looking at page 64, looking at the monthly program variances greater than 100,000. For the line, parks, sports and environment, and a year to date, the budget's 2.4 million and the actual is 1.5, so about nearly $1 million. We're also getting a lot of feedback from residents about the mowing. Is part of that the mowing, or what's happening in that area?
No, none of that is the mowing. So this is obviously the capital. The mowing is operational. That would be the major chunk of that would be the Atlantic Drive sports facility.
Okay.
Yep, so that's the main one.
So it's not we're waiting for equipment for mowing?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, we can't claim that one.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of the council officer? Thank you. Yes, Councillor Ireland.
I'd like to thank you and the team for the work that you've done on Redbank Plains Road and on South Station Road.
Thank you.
We've not had any negative comment from our residents, so thank you very much.
Excellent. I'll feed that back.
No other comments? Thank you very much, Mr. Martin.
Great. Thank you.
I'll move that the report be received and the contents noted. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Milligan. Open up for comments, discussion. No, I'll just look at the table on the spend and just please, when you see prior financial year actuals, that typical J curve that often happens in government, and just to see a flatter, more consistent spend and delivery is very pleasing to see for the organisation. Thank you very much, CEO. No other comments? No. In that case, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. Thank you. The exercise of delegation report. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officer on this report? No? In that case, I'll move that the report be received and the contents noted. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Fechner. Any comments on the delegation report? Yes, Councillor Ireland.
I'd like to thank the team. I notice there's about 8 pages of delegations for Division 1 through the Ripley Valley in particular, and I know that they're working very hard to keep everyone happy out in the valley with the development that's happening. So I do thank the team for their good work.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Any other comments? No, I'll put the report to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. We'll now move on to the exercise of delegation. The Planning Environment Court Action Status Report. And may I ask for the relevant council officer to come to the lectern, please?
Planning Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wells. Item Griffith Group 1 Proprietary Limited, that's obviously the childcare centre. It says awaiting directions. Are you able to provide any other update on that particular?
I can provide a small update. So we're in the process of engaging legal professionals to assist in that appeal. And in terms of another update is there's currently 5 co-respondents from the community joining the appeals. So that's probably about all that's happened since the time that the appeal is lodged. So there's community involvement in that appeal.
Okay. Have we heard anything else on the Land Track BMI and Cleanaway matter? It still says awaiting judgment. Has there been any movement?
I would say that the judge is still working very hard to read all the documents. So no, we haven't had an update, unfortunately.
Okay. The matter on wandless recycling, it says that we're still waiting directions. Should that not be that's been called in by the state government?
That's right. That won't appear on the next update. So we prepare this a little bit ahead of time. So basically the appeal has ended. We were leaving it on the register just a little bit longer because they're depending on the information requested by the minister, it might be necessary to engage with our solicitors, but it will disappear next time.
Okay. The item with Division 4 L&P Backman nominees, the matter is listed for review on the 27th of January. Where is that at now?
Yep, so there was a review. We are currently still engaging without prejudice conversations. It is set down for hearing on the 21st of February, but that may change depending on how the without prejudice negotiations are carried out.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions of Mr. Bowles. Does anyone else? No, thank you very much, Mr. Bowles.
Thank you.
So I move that this report be received and the contents noted. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Fechner. Any discussion on the report? No, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's unanimous and carried. There are no notices of motion. There are no matters arising or no other procedural motions or formal matters. So the meeting is closed now at 9:27. And the next meeting is on in 10 minutes, so it'll be 9:37. Thank you.